Yeah, hello. The first day was really amazing,
Nice.
and I practiced some, like I practiced Houdini part and some little bit of Maya. Like I was practicing in the metro train while commuting back to home. It's 7:30 p.m. right now in India, and like I was also
Yeah,
putting inquiries on Discord. Whatever issues I was facing in the metro train while commuting back home, I was putting in the Discord. Yeah, so
That
it's
that's nice. Did you, Arjun, did you place something in the board or not yet?
Not yet. I was just understanding how the file structure of the Houdini file, and
Well,
I just made this. I just show my screen.
yeah, no worries. In any case, whatever you feel you should go on the board, just do it. If you have references, ideas, general ideas, even questions, put it on the board. It's better for us to see what's going on in your mind. Do it, please.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much for joining day 2. We're going to divide the session into parts. The first one will be just tutorials, some question and answers, and the second part will be just we are going to work through all of your updates in the board, trying to discuss some ideas regarding the models, because from tomorrow onwards we want to focus on more on visualization. Today also Aman will give us an introduction of NFT, NFT minting and NFT business, and the idea today is to create our own crypto wallet. So please pay attention to that first part, because hopefully that won't be too hard to do. So I think, Aman, you can start now by sharing your screen. Maybe if you want, you can start by explaining the NFT part before tutorials.
yeah, sure.
I have a few questions related to Maya. Can I ask right now, or the Q&A will be held later?
We can do it in the Q&A. That will be fine. So first of all, just because let's maintain the order, because we are going live right now. We are live right now. So let's go directly into the tutorials. Then we can stop. Then we'll stop the live streaming. Then we can go with the Q&A, if that's fine.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Cool. So so I start off with introduction to NFTs and what NFTs are. So, and also of how we can set up our own crypto wallets and how to transfer cryptocurrency into a crypto wallet so that we are set before we actually mint our NFTs. Let me share my screen. I have a presentation ready, so I can share this with you guys after I've presented, if it's fine. Let me know when you can see the screen, please, because this is annoying. Okay. Can you see my screen? Just before I start.
Sure, I can. Sure, I can.
You can? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So right. So this is going to be a very brief introduction and a very quick one of NFTs, because I'm sure a lot of you guys know what NFTs are by now and what crypto wallets are. But in case someone doesn't know, it's just going to be a quick run through. So what we're going to be covering, let's get this floating thing again. Yes, it's good. Okay. So these are the things that we'll be covering. So what is actually an NFT, and what are utilities in NFTs, which are very, really important, and some examples, and then how to choose your NFT listing site. For example, we have OpenSea, we have Foundations, we have Variable. And then after that, I'll be showing you how we can set up our crypto wallets and then transferring cryptocurrency into it. Pretty basic. So what is an NFT? It's a non-fungible token. And what does that mean? In simple terms, it means like a token which has its own identity inside its blockchain. So it's something that cannot be copied, something that cannot be substituted, and something that cannot be subdivided. And to showcase this idea more, I divided this into fungible item and what's a non-fungible item. So what are fungible items? It's basically stuff that can be subdivided, and we can exchange something with that. So for example, we have $1,000 bill, and we can get the same value having $500. So it can be subdivided into different categories, whereas a non-fungible item is something very original, and it has its own identity, like the Mona Lisa piece. It cannot be copied. It can be copied, but not it won't be authentic in its way, if that makes sense. So what's a token? Now we went through what a non-fungible item is, but what actually is a token? It's actually a proof of ownership that you have. And for example, if suppose you have a house, so you have a signed agreement or a registrar. I'm not sure if they call it over there in the US or anything, but we call it as a registrar over here. So in this case, the registrar is a physical token that's associated with me and the house. So it's something that's a proof that I have this house under my name. So who tracks tokens? Physical tokens are basically tracked by banks, lawyers, government, or judges. And the digital token is basically where the NFT is. It's tracked by the blockchain. And basically, if I were to tell you the blockchain, okay. So for example, if I want to transfer money to Pedro with an app like PayPal or PhonePe, I would have to so in between our connection, we have a bank who basically checks if we have the money in both the accounts. But in the case of the blockchain, we basically get rid of this bank, and it's only me and Pedro who's doing the transaction, and it's pretty open. So that's why the blockchain is a very it's a very transparent system where everyone can see everyone's transactions. So it's very public and it's very safe. Now moving on to what a utility in the NFTs are, which is very, very important. And it's basically an additional benefit that you get if you buy an NFT. So something more than just its art form. So if, for example, if I were to own Bored Ape NFT, I would get access to the Ape Fest, which is being held every year. So it's something that if you buy an NFT, you get an added benefit in the physical world itself. Another example is the Flyfish NFT collection. So if you buy one of the NFT from this collection, you get access to the Flyfish Club restaurant, and where you can dine in with the luxurious owners. So it's something that you give value, like you give additional value to your NFT more than just its art form. So those are utilities. So the moral is 85% of the new NFT collections which you find on foundations, they don't sell because they don't have a utility attached. So if I were to sell a collection which has no utility involved, I would have very less chances of people actually wanting to buy it, because they know now that we can add these extra benefits to NFTs, and they're all looking for that nowadays. So so people want just more than art forms now after seeing its potential. So how to choose your NFT listing site? Well, it's all based on I know it's all based on like 3 different categories for me. As a user, you basically see the transaction fees, you see the gas fees, and you see the account fees which are there. Now, what are transaction fees? Now, the NFT marketplace, such as the OpenSeas or foundations, they take a certain percentage from your sale upon every NFT that you sell. So like OpenSea, they take like 2.5% of every sale that you make, whereas Foundation, it takes 5%. And so gas fees is basically an amount which you pay every time you list your NFT to the blockchain. So for OpenSea, well, I think, I'm not sure because I haven't gone to OpenSea for a long time, but when I posted my on the marketplace, I only paid the gas fee for OpenSea on my first item listed. And after that, it was free for me. Whereas I pretty much sold like 5 items on Foundations. And every time I listed something on Foundations, it was like, it was up from $20 to $120. It keeps fluctuating. So it's not a fixed price. So, so maybe if you want to list your NFT to the blockchain or maybe on Foundations, maybe at like 3 a.m., it's basically going to be for like $30 or for $20. But, but inside the peak hours, like 6 p.m. or 5 p.m., it goes all the way to 120. And it goes to 120 because the audience at that time is a lot. So a lot of people are buying NFTs at that time. So that's why they put the gas fee so high at the moment. 3 a.m. which time zone? Probably the US, I think. It should be, I think, yeah. Now we can go to, setting up crypto wallet. I have it set up on the Miro board. So if we can go there, it would be cool. Just go to yeah, Miro. All right. Let me share my screen again. Sorry about that. Okay, you should be able to see this, right? So setting up your crypto wallets. So first of all, you need to choose your crypto wallet which you want to make. So there are a lot of crypto wallets now at the moment, like so there's Metamask, there's some models, but I think the most common one that people use are Metamask. So we'll be going with Metamask for this setup. Step 2 is always open the official site of your crypto wallets. After that, you basically have to install the Metamask extension to your browser. So I think it supports Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, Mozilla, and one more thing, I'm not sure. I think Opera. Yeah, I think Opera. Then what's important is for you to set up your account, and you get 2 things. One is the address which you use to list, and so you keep your address to yourself. And if you want to make a transaction somewhere, you need to use that address to make purchases. So along with this account, you get a recovery phrase, which you keep hidden always in your safe box or anything. And always remember the recovery phrase in case you lost your password of your account or anything. Yeah. Step 5, we may lose our lives, but we never lose our recovery phrase. So, right. So I'm not sure if you guys want to do it now, but the steps are over here. You just quickly go through them. So step 1, again, going through the official website, metamask.io, and you basically download, you go to the download plugin over here, and you set up with your extension that you have. So I think in my case, this was, I think Microsoft Edge, which I used for this one. So you press get and you get, so it basically connects you to your MetaMask, and after it's done installing, you will get, yeah, okay. So over here, it's basically, if you already have an account, see, so you need the secret recovery phrase to import the wallet to your extension in case you have it. But if you don't, you just click this, create a wallet. And over here, you'll be able to see your secret phrase. So once you click over here, they're going to give you the phrase. So just copy it and just put it in your notepad or your document and save it to some secure folder. And yeah, that's pretty simple. You pass your test. I think after this, after you click next, you will be asked to again fill in your recovery phrase as an assignment for MetaMask. So just fill it in based on your phrase that you have. And after that, you pass the test, and it basically gives you all this. And after that, you basically have it over here as an extension. So at the moment, I created a new one especially for this. So I have it over here. And if you click on this, you get this small drop down where you have this over here as the address. So this thing is your address. So keep this with you. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, I think. And if you want to buy crypto, you can buy it from here. So there are a lot of, different ways to buy it. I think I can show you guys. Let me see if I have it. Oops. Oh shit. Yeah. Wait, let me just see if I can make this work. Hopefully I can.
Remember that the idea behind a crypto wallet is not just current money, but your whole NFTs. And in addition, the idea behind NFTs is that they are not only related to art. Wherever could be considered a digital good can be an NFT. For example, I remember that I found one day a web page in where you were able to buy Web3 domains, for example. So you will be able to buy whatever domain you want. For example, potato dot instead of com, you should be able you should be able to buy potato.web3 or potato.blockchain. So you could buy that domain as an NFT. In any case, you could wait until its value increase to sell it again later. There are web pages that are, for example, there's a whole market around it, and it's very interesting because you can buy whatever domain you want, as it was at the beginnings of the 90s when the internet appeared. Remember that, when some people used to buy domains, very simple domains, like as $10, and like 10 years later they could be able to sell it as in millions of dollars. I don't know. It's a whole new market, I think, but they are all related to the Web3, the concept of the Web3 idea, and in where we are dealing with now, we are dealing with a more decentralized way of shared data. So there are tons of applications that are now work as a Web3 applications. I put on the board a chart that it's pretty well known, related to the alternatives of Web3 applications. The idea of having decentralized data is very interesting, as you are able to give value to your own data. So to the point that you can even sell your own data. You can be paid for your own data. For example, thinking about Facebook, for example, Facebook is a kind of Web 2 application in where all the data that you are putting there belongs to Facebook. It's not yours anymore. As soon as you place it, it's not yours. But the idea behind Web3 is that the data that you share is yours, and you can do whatever you want with it, even if you want to give them value. That's where the idea of NFT appears. So even, for example, I don't know how many of you have heard about this Internet Explorer, this application for internet exploring, which is called Brave. Brave is probably the first Internet Explorer application based on Web3, and where you can if you don't want to share your data, you cannot. If you want to share your data, you can be paid for it. If you want, if you don't, just don't. And the majority of crypto wallets works pretty well with that particular that particular application. I actually use it. But anyway. Okay, Aman, I don't know if you want to add something.
No,
you can guys create your crypto wallet if you want. MetaMask is based on Ethereum, but it's not the only one. Of course, there are tons of blockchains out there. So, for example, there are different crypto wallets based on Solana network, which is another kind of blockchain. But for example, in our particular case, Foundation.App as a marketplace, I think works with just Ethereum. I'm not sure, Aman, but if they work with another crypto system, but as I know, they just work with Ethereum. But at the same time, there are other marketplace that works with whole different networks. So, for example, if you want to work with Solana, you have, for example, I remember Phantom is one of the most popular crypto wallets there. But in the Ethereum world, MetaMask is one of the best known, I think.
Also, if I may add, like, I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is some new sort of tokens that they really announced on probably in May, I think. May. So they call it like soul-bound tokens. So these tokens are basically non-transferable tokens. And how these work is, and how these guys are planning on doing it is, so in the future, if you're basically graduating from college, instead of a degree, they're going to give you a soul-bound token of your degree. So it's basically bound to you itself. So it's like an accolade that you have, like, like how you have in the games, like these sort of, accolades and achievements. So yeah, just to put it out there, I was just seeing this like last night. I think it was like something, it was really, really cool. So these are like non-transferable. So you can't transfer these tokens to someone else. It's basically bound to you. So, I feel that, it may be a pretty cool idea if, people want to get digital and stuff. I'll just share this link with you guys.
If you create your crypto wallet now, also keep in mind that you can also have your same account in your cell phone, in your smartphone. MetaMask has also a mobile application. So once you create your crypto wallet, please write down the codes, the recovery code they gave you, or the recovery phrase they gave you, because there is no other way to recover your wallet if you lose that particular phrase. There's no way. That's how people usually lose crypto money. by forgetting their password. Not the password, their recovery phrase.
Yeah, this happened to me as well once.
Yeah, that usually happens. So, okay, guys, I'll try to create your wallet. If you need help, just let us know later to help you, each one of you.
Yeah.
Can I contribute something to NFTs?
Please do it.
Please.
Yeah. And I'll also share my screen. So I have started my journey in NFTs last year. And it's a very, it can be quite overwhelming because there are so many terms and so many processes. As a newbie, it can just overwhelm you and makes things, you get confused. So I started attending a lot of Twitter spaces, a lot of discussions, and I started taking notes. And I compiled one document which can be accessed to everyone. It's still a work in progress. I'll just share my screen. And
yes, please
in that you can, there are a lot of Twitter threads, there are a lot of collectors, there are a lot of established artists who share their opinion on NFTs, how to market yourself better, how to take care of your mental health, how to market yourself. So I compiled various Twitter threads and discussions on in this Google Doc. I've shared the link in the chat. So yeah, so I keep on reading these. I keep coming back to these because there are a lot of, because Twitter can be very difficult, and if you have a day job, if you have a side hustle and you're managing NFTs, the information can be very overwhelming because there's so much of noise out there and it's very difficult to get a knowledge. So yeah, so I started compiling this thread last year only, so I keep on adding whatever I find relevant. So they are secure practices. It's not a very neat and clean, but it's still you may find a lot of information automotive, the NFT flipping
There's a lot of
threads,
info.
That's
threads
amazing, man.
on
A lot of
NFT
good
and
info, yeah.
I put
and
that information in the board just in case you want to see it, just in case.
yeah, how-to guides and social media posts on crypto, marketing your NFTs, pricing and building a community. Like selling your minting an NFT can be easy. You know, we are all designers. We are all
Yeah.
creative people, but selling is the very hard part.
True. True.
And, yeah, so
So
it's very very
I may add something that you were saying, and it makes totally sense. For example, I really suggest you guys to be familiar with Twitter as well, because
Yeah.
the majority of this business moves around Twitter. Because I remember when I knew OpenSea. This is one of the best well-known marketplaces. They also were known because of the scams you usually used to found there. And that was a really huge problem there, because anyone could sell NFTs as a scam. So by being aware in Twitter, people used to share a lot of information there regarding the marketplaces. That's where Foundation.App appears as a solution. Well, I don't know as a solution, but at least Foundation.App doesn't have just a marketplace, but it's a whole system. It's a whole system that has a marketplace. That's why we consider at least Foundation is more secure in that sense. OpenSea,
Yeah.
I don't know how OpenSea managed to solve that scam problem. Hopefully they don't have those problems now, but not sure yet. But to be honest, I think Foundation is more secure in that way. But you need to be aware, of course. Try to follow all the official Twitter's account. To be very well informed about it.
Yeah, I mean, if I may add on to that, so just to share something for my own, when I first started off, into NFTs, and I was really, first of all, really hyped up, that I'm going to sell like my 3 NFTs, which I'm going to post, and that's it. Now people are going to buy it because they look so cool. So I listed them on Foundations, and then I got a friend of mine, who basically told me that it's not like that. It doesn't work like that. You need to be like, you need to build an audience or a community before you can actually be able to sell something. And they did give me the advice of just be really, really active on Twitter. So after I listed my NFT on Foundations, I remember I used to be up all night because I used to stay in Dubai, and well, I am still staying in Dubai, but so I think when it was like 3 a.m. over there, it was like, I think, evening in the US, and that's when all the audience were on Twitter. So I used to stay all night and just connect with all the NFT artists, and go on their posts and comment, and trying to like build up a community. And that's how after like maybe 3 weeks of being really, really active, I was able to like sell one. And after that, it was just all right. But it's just like the first phase is a big struggle to sell, because you need to really be active on social media and promote your NFTs to the next level. And yeah, I mean, that's what my journey was. If anyone else is in NFTs and would like to share something, we're open to listen. Oh yeah, thanks Arjun for the link. I was just reading your
stuff.
Thanks
a lot.
So
In the documentation, I found this Twitter that actually this Twitter for reporting scams and fake collectors. That's the kind of accounts you should follow if you are more interested in the NFT in the NFT world. Please do it, and don't get too much excited about it.
Like me.
It's very common to get excited, and when things they don't turn very good, and even like we are all designers. Someone like us saw portfolios, I got blown away. And there are a lot of artworks which you see, they are very simple, and there is no, I mean I'll be very blunt over here, there is no thought about texturing, lighting, story building, there's nothing, and it gets sold like at very high prices, and you are putting so much effort in your work, and that does not get sold, and it sometimes can become very
Demotivating.
demotivating, and you begin to question yourself that, man, I studied 5 years of architecture, I'm spending so much time in these workshops, thinking so many learning so many different workflows, I put so much effort, I think things are not working out. So it can be very hard, and everyone goes through that phase, and that's why it's very important to just see things as they are and understand they are uh, people who have very different tastes. Some people are buying artworks because they like the artist, they are not interested in the artworks. That's it. If there are many people who are very good at making friends, they are very good at communicating their ideas, and some people are not. So we have to take care of all these lot of practices and phenomena, and understand that there are a lot of different market forces, and we have to keep in mind that things may not go as planned or as we hope. So yeah, that's my opinion.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. But also don't feel sad about it. There are other types of marketplaces. If as an artist, you have places, not NFT places, but you have huge marketplaces as ArtStation, for example. You have places like Sketchfab where you can sell your models or your art, your 2D art, 3D art. You can even sell your assets through the marketplace of Unreal Engine, and it's free for all. You can do it as well. I usually use ArtStation, and I usually use Gumroad also. Gumroad at least for me, Gumroad has worked well for me, at least to sell assets, documentation. You can even go through that, and also you can go into the NFT world. Why not? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Good start for today. Okay, now I think, Aman, we are ready for the tutorial part of Maya. I think today you're going to work with interoperability, right?
Yeah, I'm going to show you guys now the things which are made from Maya to Houdini, and how we can make stuff procedural. So let me just load the file. So the basic idea is to create like a base model on Maya. So for people who don't want to do it on Maya and they want to do it on, say, Grasshopper or on Blender or 3ds Max, is totally fine. We can do that. Just let me just load the file. Sorry about that. I should have done this earlier, but I was just too engrossed on NFT talks. Okay, so the idea for today is in Maya, we'll be exploring reformers to the limit, and we'll be exploring non-linear reformers. So I'll be showing you guys that. Just try to open stuff up. And then what we're going to be doing is taking the geometries from Maya to Houdini and trying to like apply different curvature analysis to it to extract information out and create new geometries from it. So that would be something really cool. Maya just takes too long to load. Okay, can share my screen. Yeah, if you guys are stuck anywhere, please stop me anytime. Okay, so right, you can see my screen. Right. Okay.
Yes.
You should be able to. Yeah. Okay. So the idea for today. I think I hear an echo. Okay, it's fixed.
I fixed it. No worries.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so the idea is to create, again, we start off from what we were doing yesterday and trying to build up more on it. And after that, we take the model to Houdini. So you can see it over here. I prepared this script for you guys. I can share this with you anytime after the workshop. So the idea is to take the stuff that we do on Maya and apply different analysis on it, EDB, which Pedro was talking about, and to create something very very cool in a very procedural way. So I've linked all the procedural stuff to my frames. So every frame I change, it creates a new iteration like this. So let's stop it before it crashes. Okay, cool. Right. So going back to Maya, the handicap world. Okay, I think we stopped. Well, we just go start out from here. The thing that we created yesterday. Right. So today we go. If you go up on modeling tab and you go to deform, you'll see a bunch of stuff. And here is where we found our lattice, which we were using a lot. So today we'll be going to the nonlinear section and going through these really cool effects which we can add to our geometries. So yeah, one by one we can go through all. So let's say there are like five.
Excuse me, Aman.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yes.
Yeah, if you haven't gone so far from the cube, could you quickly go over what you did yesterday? I missed it, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, sure.
If you have to redo it, just mention is fine.
No worries. Okay, so what I did with the cube, I'm not sure with, so do you know the shortcuts which we discussed or not even that?
No, I missed it completely, sorry.
Okay. Wait, Pedro, do we have the recording here on YouTube?
We have the recording ready.
Okay.
From day one, it's on YouTube. It was ready yesterday, by the way.
Okay.
I will share again, in any case, the playlist here, just in case. Okay.
Okay. Anyway, I'm just going to quickly go through it so people can also get an idea of what we did. So I started off from this cube and basically shift right click, which you'll basically see how we did it in the first tutorial. So what we did first was right click, so vertices, selected everything, go to chamfer, and I created the chamfers on every edge. And then what I did is I selected each and every chamfer which was created and basically extruded them. So Control E to bring up the extrusion, pop up. And I think we extruded it by by 10, or you can go how much ever that you want. So it creates these extrusions based on the normals. Then what we did is we used multi-cut. So what this tool does, it creates cuts on your objects. So the idea was then to create very quickly cuts all around, equal cuts. And you basically know that by seeing the percentage over there. So 50 means, you can cut it 50%. So this is equal and this is equal. And very quickly, what we did is we bridged, to connect the legs, I bridged this and this. So I select this and go to bridge faces, and it creates a bridge. And for the other leg, I go and do the same thing from the inside, and I bridge them. So the shortcut for doing a command again is G, G for grep. And basically, yeah, I just did it for each and everything. And after that, after we're done over here, I created this model over here. Just if you're zoomed out and if you want to zoom in something, just click it and press F. So it's going to frame it according to the model. And after I bridged everything, I created something like this, something very, organic. And after that, what I did was I used the shift and mirror. And by default, it's going to go towards the axis over here. So you change your axis position to grounding. So it, you can connect it over here and move it around the gumball. And basically, yeah, I mean, that's how you come to shapes like this. I'm not sure if that was quick enough, or do you understand anything from that?
That was great. That was great. Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah. In any case, sure. Sorry to interrupt you. I mean, in any case, we have the first video on YouTube, which this part is more detailed, so you can go there after this session. So no worries.
Yeah. So, okay, so after this, what we're going to do is go back to our friendly lattice. So you go to deform lattice, which we did yesterday. Play around with the divisions. So I would say 3x3x3 is fine for me. And you select the cage and you right click, hold it, and you get this menu over here and go to lattice point. So now you're basically able to select these points and move them around. So in my case, what I did is I selected these, the last ones, and just move them around to make something very organic and unique in a way. So you can even scale them and move them. And yeah, suppose if I have something like this, so remember, so you can't move stuff because everything is now enclosed in the cage, so you can't move it around. In order to, if you're happy with this shape, you just have to Control D, put a duplicate, and you move that away. And yeah, so you have this. What we can do is, again, I use the mirror, go to bounding, and in this case, I want to go to my Z-axis. And probably the direction I wanted to, mirror from that other direction. So I go to direction here, click this, and go to plus. So it mirrors something like this. It's pretty cool. So it's up to you guys, however that you want to make your shapes. I'm just showing you different ways to do it. Right, so now I think we are ready to go to the new one, which is the non-linear. So you go to deform to non-linear, and you can see these really handy 6 items or 6 effects. So if I click on bend, so what it's going to do is, if you go to your attribute editor, and so by default, it's going to create this sort of a vertical line. And if you select on it, so this itself is the bend deformer. So if you go to attribute editor over here, you'll be able to see 3 new things which are associated with the bend. I think the one that works well is the third one. These 2 people don't really use it. I think it's just to move. So the first one is to move this itself around, and based on this, you can bend. So it basically influences the bend based on the position of your, your curve, let's say. So, so maybe I want something like this, or maybe I want to go back to my first and rotate my bend to make it more, horizontal. So it's going to get now influenced based on this axis, if you know. So yeah, I mean, you can test out things over here. And again, if you're satisfied with this shape, you can Control D and bring it out. I don't think you can bring this out because at the moment, it's all influenced by the effect. So you can't drag it out. So you'll have to Control D and then create a duplicate of the version which you like. And yeah, I mean, after that, you basically do yeah, you can do pretty much anything you want with this. So for instance, if I go to, let's see, I can go with the other effect, right? Actually, I use that one. Sorry about that. Right, okay, so bringing on the new one, we go to nonlinear. Okay, let's try flare. What does flare do? Click on this and you see you have another handle with 2 circles. So over here in the third one, you'll see a lot of settings. So the first one is basically, so based on the first flare is basically going to be the bottom circle, and you can move that around, or you can move the one on, you can move it on the X and the Y, or the Z, sorry. And the one on the top is called the end flare. So you can move that as well based on however you want. The curve is going to basically, let's say, it's going to extend or, attract based on the curve thing. Yeah, so the low bound is, yeah, so you can even move up the flares up and down. So it's basically going to show you how much it's going to get influenced. So the lower it is, I don't think it's going to do anything. I mean, it is going to do, but very subtle. So you need to be careful of where you're placing your flares in this case. But yeah, something to keep in mind while doing different stuff. And you see, like, by doing all this, you're really creating like very, very organic stuff using very simple methods from basically a cube. So the general idea is basically to create like a block. So in our case, we created the first one that we had over here. And after that, just, applying mirror cuts and using deformers, the lattice to really, go overboard and to create very complex forms. So if I were to ask someone to model this by hand, or, just use polymodeling without any deformers or anything, it's almost going to be impossible to do it in like, 5 to 10 minutes. So yeah, it's something very, very handy to use these. The one which I like, I think the sign, the twist and everything, you can test them out. But the one which I really use for animations is, I think, the waves. Especially, so this is how I basically animated the bird, which I was showing you guys, which I think is over here actually. Yeah, so this one, if you can see, I've animated it using a wave function. So you can actually see it go like a wave. So you can export this animation to Unreal Engine, and it's going to move around in that way. So let's go and hide this, delete that. Let's go here. Let's click this. The wave. Okay, so we have an amplitude, we have wavelength, we have offsets. So the offset is basically going to be your main focus to put as an animation in. So in this, we're going to be setting up the keys for the animation. Whereas the other ones, for example, the amplitude is basically, it basically changes the curve, and it basically goes in the form of the wave, and the geometry itself tries to follow the curve based on how much value that you give. So I think we can give it a very subtle value, not very, let's not go overboard. I think something like this is fine. The wavelength is basically going to be how curvy your curve is. So if I go really high up, it's not going to move at all. I mean, it's going to move subtle, but not so much. So you need to control the curve, and based on this, you move the offset to see how it moves. All right, so quickly to animating this. Okay, Now, since we have this set up, and I'll kind of like this motion, how it's going. So let's keyframe these things. So at the bottom over here is your timeline where you set up animations and stuff, simulations. So this one is basically, I'm sure everyone has worked with After Effects or anything, is basically the same thing. So this is, so at the moment we're on frame 53, which we don't want to be at the moment. We want to go to frame 1. And basically, okay, so the offset, we can basically start off from -10, is fine. Right click offset and go to set key. And is curve turned red means that this key is associated with the first frame over here. Now, if I move my slider all the way up to 120, the end of my frame, I can shift this and probably go, let's say -4. And now again, I'm gonna right click and set key. So now it's basically from keyframe 1 to keyframe 120, the offset is going from -10, which we set in the beginning, to -4. So if you go all the way back to -1 and you click play, you can see how it's, you know, animating and stuff. And you can again change anything that you want over here. Suppose I want to change the wavelength a bit more, or the amplitude a bit more. So let's try this. I think this will be too extreme. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, so this is the way I used to create that bird-like thing which I posted on Eurobot. And yeah, okay, so this one is done. And also, if you like any, you know, form as it goes, you can again just suppose, say I like this form over here in frame 51. I just Control D and I move it, and I can work with this now. And if I use error cut again, you can see how, you know, how easy it is to really make stuff. And also, I think I forgot to mention this. So when you mirror cutting, you don't always have 90-degree angles. Suppose like the plus and the minus. You can also go to this gumball here and rotate the models. So that's another tip to make it look very, very organic. So at the moment, everything connects. So all the faces are now connected, and we've already created something that's very, very organic and very, you know, simplified. And again, I want to reset like how I showed you guys. And yeah, so that was a quick introduction for deformers, and you're free to use any one that you like. I don't think squash works really well. I've tried to use squash, but I don't really like it so much. But let's see how it looks on this geometry itself. Non-linear squash, and trying to like move stuff around. Yeah, I mean, it's just really it really just squeezes your geometry based on the focal flare that you have in the middle. I mean, if you want to work with it, you're free to do it, but in my case, I don't really like this. It's just too rigidified. Okay, so I think more or less we have done all the things that are there in Maya in terms of deformers. I know it was very, very quick. I don't want to like, you know, overwhelm you guys with a lot of things, because tomorrow we'll be starting with nCloud simulations, and that's something that's very, very interesting. So I think I can end the Maya over here. If anyone of you have any doubts for deformers or anything, you are free to ask right now before I export this geometry to Houdini.
I have a doubt in multi-cut.
Yeah,
Can
sure.
I
Yes, 1 second, just stop sharing. Yeah.
Right. So is my screen visible?
Yeah, bro.
Okay, so when I tried, I have entered face mode, and if I just hold, sorry, if I do, sorry, sometimes this menu opens up, and I want to do multi-cut, but it's not visible. I mean, before I was presenting my screen, multi-cut was available, and somehow.
Okay, yeah. I think that menu opens when you have not selected the object itself. So if you right click, you go to object mode. Let's say if you
Now,
go to
now I
object
have
mode.
this. Now I have
Yeah,
this
okay, so
multi-cut,
yeah,
and if I do control and shift, I get only one cut. I'm not getting the loop like you were getting.
okay. Are these faces joined? I think that only happens when the faces aren't joined. It's basically when the edges are not connected. Can you select one edge and just move it around so we can see if thing is connected? So go to edge
So I'll
mode.
edge mode. Yes, so I click
Yeah,
here.
select, click W and move one edge.
W and O.
Move it. Just move it around.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So yes. So you have an issue over there in the middle. So I can't request control or anything in this. Pretty him.
I have an issue over here.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't think that's connected well over there. The face isn't connected with the leg properly. It's basically another geometry which attached to the thing, but we want to make it into like one entire thing. So wait, can you send me this file and I can like see if it's fine?
Yeah. Okay, I'll just send you the file. And before I send the file, I have like a doubt because I come from SketchUp and Rhino background and Cinema 4D. So is there a way to I have to always press Alt in order to orbit around. Sorry. And is there a way to just disable the method of Alt and I can simply orbit around by pressing the middle mouse button?
Um, well, I've never tried that. I'm not sure if we can. Pedro, do you know if we can do that?
You can
Because I
create
think
shortcuts, but I'm not sure if you can change that. But let me check. But you can create shortcuts
yeah, we can create
as an
hotkeys.
as an
But
effort. Yeah.
yeah,
Just in case, regarding your last question, you were trying to create a loop, right?
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
If you want to create loops, instead of using the multi-cut option, try by using at edge. But you need to go first into the edge mode.
Okay, I'll
Let's
just click on edge mode. Sorry.
let's press escape first. Yeah, edge
or
mode.
maybe the
Yeah,
edge loop.
yeah, and then select which edge you want to work with. Let's select the longest one, for example.
Yeah,
Yeah, but press I think it's shift right click, I think.
Shift right click.
Yeah,
Yes.
you have one option that it's called insert edge loop tool down there.
yeah. I was looking at that.
Please
Edge loop.
Yes.
click on the box. There were a small box at the right next to it.
This one. Okay.
Do it again. Repeat again all the
Okay, I'll do
process.
edge and
Then
right click.
select, go to the box at the right.
At the
There is
right.
one.
Insert.
There is one.
I should
What this? Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that one.
That will show up this particular option. So probably what you are looking for, it's called multiple edge loop. It's the third option. Yeah, for example, there you can select one. Try to select one edge first, and it's supposed to create one whole loop. Just press escape or close that window and press again. Then click on the longest loop, on the longest edge again. Just click on the edge, because right now the command is active. It should create your whole loop. It's not.
Yeah, there's something I think wrong with the initial geometry.
I'll
I think if you,
also mention how I created this these extrusions because you were, Aman, saying that there is something wrong over here. So what I did, instead of selecting these faces one by one, I used a symmetry mode, which is over here. So all the faces got extruded like in one single shot. I mean, all the also got selected in one single go because I used this symmetry mode. And how the extrusions were done. So just for the, I just share this file over WeTransfer and maybe you can take a look at this.
I mean, I think it's, I don't think it's a very heavy file. Yeah, it's just like 2 geometries. Yeah, then I think you can just share it on the chat.
Share it through the chat. I will check it out while Aman can continue. So Aman can continue with the tutorial part. No worries.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
No worries, man. Okay. Okay. So if there are no other questions, I think we can go to the fun part, which is Houdini. Sorry, Maya was also fun, but Houdini is more fun. Okay, let me share my screen. Maya's fun too. Yeah. Okay. So, right. So for starters, I didn't take the very complex geometry because it's a tutorial session and I don't want to explode my laptop and go offline. So yeah, I took a very simple geometry. If you want, you can test it out with very complex ones, like the one which we really made at the end, if you have a very strong PC. But yeah, okay. So right. So the first one is basically, yeah. So you create.
Hi. Me again. Just wanted to ask if you exported FBX and did it automatically mesh the geometry?
I've exported from Maya. Once I could just again show you how I did. Okay, so before exporting this model, it was not in the smooth mode because I just clicked 3 and it was just showing me a preview of the smooth. So by default, it's in this mode. So what I do is I click this, I shift right click, go to smooth, and I up the smoothness by 3. Now this is the main geometry which I want to export. So I go to file, I go to export selection, and I go to an OBJ export.
Okay.
You should be able to see this.
Yeah.
Aman, can you please repeat how did you smooth the geometry?
Yeah, sure. Right. So if I have this in my, if you click 1, it's going to take you to your default, however it is at the moment. So I click on this using object mode. I shift and right click. It's going to give me a bunch of options. And I click smooth. So it's going to give you a pop-up. So 1, 2, or 3. That's it. Like, don't go above 3. It's going to be really, really heavy. So max you can go to 3, and 3 is probably the best because it's basically the same as it was in the 3 mode. So yeah, you can see just for comparison. So yeah, so that, I hope that answers your question, if that was your question.
Yes,
Yep.
thank you.
Awesome. I fixed your problem. Yeah, Pedro, if you want, you can tell him the problem now before we go to Houdini.
Okay, no worries. I will do it. I will share my screen very fast.
Yeah, sure.
What I did with your file agent is I just copy paste your file into another one in a clean one. Then, by the way, when you struggle when you face this kind of problems, first of all, try to delete all the history in your file. So so you will get a kind of clean file. If you don't want to lose all your history, if you were working with deformers and that kind of things, you can copy paste your particular model into new empty file. That's what I did. And even though your topology looks weird down here, let me select it again. Even though here it looks weird, doesn't matter at the end, because you're dealing with a, your edge here it's well constructed, so that's not a problem. So what I did is, once your file is clean, you go to edge, you select your edge, shift right click, you go to insert edge loop in the box. From here, just select how many edges you want to, how many loops you want to add in every edge. I just go like 1 in this case. I go escape, click on that particular edge, and problem solve. Then I go here, I can go here, and so on.
Pedro, can you even check if multicut is working?
Multicut works. Remember that multicut works. When you work with multicut, you need to go like edge by edge. So if I, for example, if I go here, like, no, not this one. If I go like multicut here, I should, if I wanna do a loop here, I will need to go one by one. But you can start here. If you press, for example, I think if you press shift, you can choose. You can, you can grab. You can work with percentages. So I can go like 50, then I go back, press shift again, select other 50, and so on. I don't know if there is a way to do this faster, but as I remember, multicut, when you use multicut, you presenter. When you work with multicut, you need to go step by step or edge by edge. That's why we have the other option that is called add edge length.
I actually just found a easier way, I think. When you choose the chamfers and extrude them, in the pop-up menu, there's divisions option. And there you can just enter 2 or 3.
That's true.
It automatically does it to everywhere.
That's true. That's completely true. When you extrude that, when you extrude something, if you are really sure that you want to have 3 divisions here on the extruded faces, you just immediately change this into 3, for example, and you will get the subdivision. However, if you just extruded your geometry and you forgot to do the edge subdivision, you need to go to edge loop. You need to go to edge mode, shift right click, insert edge loop, select 8 in any case, click on one edge. Oh, here is the problem. I think, let me see what's happening here.
Was it the other geometry which you deleted history, or was it this one?
Let me think. I think. Okay, I found a problem. Probably what I see here is that yes, you have vertices here. You need to deal. You need to erase those vertices, because probably you see here that what you're seeing is just one edge, but it's not. Here there are 3 edges. So the correct way to delete edges here in Maya is not by selecting and deleting it. If you do that, for example, if I delete the edges by pressing delete, apparently here I have 1 edge, but it's not true. We have here 2. So be mindful about that. This is not like Rhino. This is what happens. So the correct way to delete an edge is by selecting the edges, shift right click, and you need to go to delete edge. When you do that, when you do it in that way, you will maintain the edge clean. Be mindful about that. Maybe that's the problem you faced, because all your edges has different subdivisions. Different amount of vertex. Be mindful about that. Try to clean every edge you have. Okay, that's the way. Maybe that's why. Okay, I think you can continue, Aman.
Yeah. Okay. Leila, what type of file to export from selection Maya ASCII? No, it's you can either go for OBJ or FBX. Houdini supports both. But in my case, what I did is OBJs. Yeah, okay. And one second, let me just share my screen. I think by default, probably for some of you, if you have the old Maya, you won't be having the OBJ export you may have only few of them. And how you need to enable this is go to Windows, go to Setting Preferences, go to Plugin Manager. And over here, you basically see a bunch. And what you do is you go to OBJ. And if it's unchecked, you click check and also the auto load. So if you open Maya any other time, it's going to auto load this plugin in. So you can export as an OBJ whenever you want. Be mindful that probably when you click this, you may have to restart Maya in some cases. So be mindful that you save the file and then you restart. But in any case, you just click on this, go to export selection, OBJ, and save it wherever you want. So we can open it in Houdini. Right, so yeah. Okay, so anyone else has any doubts before we go to Houdini, or am I fine to go to Houdini? Saad, do you have a doubt?
Yes, everything is fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yes, I already exported it to Houdini.
Okay, cool. Okay, so can probably then just shift to Houdini. Okay, let's save this and go to Houdini. Right, so okay, so the different interfaces, how people work. So how I work is if I open Houdini again, I'll just show you quick how I set up my stuff because it's very different from Pedro's. Like Pedro needs everything open and he likes to be very organized, unlike me. So right, so this is the first time when you open Houdini, you'll see the OBJ over here where you basically put in all your nodes. And over here, you'll be seeing the properties. So what I do is I basically delete all these on the top and make this full. So, and to get the properties panel back of every node, I just enter E for parrot. And basically it's going to give me the properties over here. So everything I do, suppose the geometry, suppose the file. And if I select this, it's always going to bring up this pop-up menu. So I have a bigger space to work over here for my scripts. So that's how I like to work. It's a bit different, but yeah, I just wanted to put it out there. Anyway, okay, so starting off, we have over here, what I did is I created a geometry node, of course, where you basically go in and put all your stuff in. And if you're in a mode and if you want to go back, you hold U, you press U for umbrella, and it goes back to the mode before it. So I created this. So I started off from here. I created a geometry node, and here I enter all my scripts. I think I used this, so let's just put it out. Okay, so right, so how did I import this if people are asking? I go to File, and over here it's going to ask me my properties panel, the type of file which I want to read. So you just click this over here and you search for your the OBJ file which you saved on your desktop or anywhere. You just click accept. And to preview it, you just have to click this over here so that it turns blue. And you basically see your model over here. Hopefully that's done. Match size I used because the model was too big. It was like way big for the operation which I want to do. So I use match size to bring it to the default size of a cube. So if you open a cube, so it's going to be more or less the size of a default cube on Houdini, as you can see, more or less, right? And after this, if you want transform or if you want to play around again with the scale, I use a transform node. And basically, I just upped the scale by 1. So by default, it was 1. So I just put it 2 to make it a bit bigger. So next what I did is I clipped it, means I cut off half of the thing with the x-axis. So it basically creates just the first one. It shows me the first one, and this one, I don't think we need to use this. Then, okay, so this one I did was for the previous model. Okay, so basically I can just do it from here to here. Sorry, you don't need to use this. So from the transform, I basically used a mountain node which Pedro was asking for, or which Pedro was showing the other day. So you can play around with the noise, the value of the noise, and the noise pattern that you want. And this offset, I'm going to show you at the end how I used to animate the entire thing. So it was using the offset over here. And in case you see that the geometry is coming out, that's totally fine in the beginning, because we're going to VDB the entire thing to create like a volume out of it, which Pedro had already said. So I resampled it to zeros and ones with the voxels, and I used a VDB reshape dilute. So what the VDB reshape does is VDB shape tool. If I put this here, you can see the dilute. Oh, sorry, that's VDB resample, not that. Okay, let's see. VDB shape. Yeah, okay. So you have different modes over here. Generally, we use the dilute and the erode. The dilute is to make it more blobby, like, or to increase the thickness of your volume, whereas the erode is to, you know, go really low, like to break it apart, or, you know, compress it. So that's something which to keep in mind. But in this case, I used the dilute and probably just went 0.55 offset. Probably I compressed it by 0.5. I think by default it's 1. And then after that, I used error to make it symmetrical. And after this, what I did is I used a VDB combine, because at the moment it's just error. So there are a lot of overlapping geometries with each other. And what I want to do is I want to combine them into one object. So we use a VDB combine node. And by default, you can see, so by default, it asks you to basically place in 2 parameters. The first object which you want to combine with the second object, but in this case, we just have 1. So over here, it's going to say combine A, B. So the first input is A, the second input is B, but we don't have a B. So we just want to combine A. So go here and flatten all A groups, or flatten all A. And now basically it's combined into one entire geometry. So that's what VDB combine does. And then I converted all of this into a whole mesh. So I convert VDB to polygons. So now it's all a polygonal mesh instead of a volume. Subdivided it to create a bit more smoothing, and delta meshed it a bit to create a bit more smoothing, because I wanted to make it as smooth as possible to get my analysis right. Now the next node which I used is the measure curvature node. So what this does, it basically just analyzes all your curvatures based on concavity and convexity, sorry, and basically gives you an output in colors. So if you go to your spreadsheet over here, you may see, if you highlight this node over here, it's for add in concavity and convexity. So each point on your polygonal mesh will have a value of concavity and convexity. So I use these values to further break down the model. So I used a group expression. So I'm not sure. Pedro, did you introduce this, or is it the first time? I'm not sure.
It's the first time.
Okay.
You can explain it. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Cool. Okay. So what a group expression does? So this is, diving into Vex a bit. So Vex coding. It's a very simple code where a group expression is something which you script a value of how much you want. So for example, if I have concavity and convexity, I can use these values. So I can use these values to create groups of points in my model. So suppose say that some values are more than 0, some of them are more less than 0, some of them are more than 5. So in this case, what we did was I used the group expression, and over here in the Vex expression, I use at convexity is greater than 0.1. And I checked in points because I want to group points. So because these concavity and convexity are stored in the points attribute of your entire geometry. So it's very important to click the points and to work with points when you work with convex and concave. So in this case, if you blue tag it, you will get these values which are grouped based on how much is the convexity of each point. So all these values have convexity values above 0.1. So if I change it 0.5 or 0.1, 0.15, it's going to alter based on that. So I click 0.1, and if I want the inverse, I just create another group saying that I want less than 0.1. So it's going to give me let's say the inverse of my selection, which I have in the first case. Now these points, I don't want points. I want the polygonal mesh itself. So I used a group promote. A group promote is something where it reads a group. And basically what it does is it asks you for a group name. So in my case, I have group 1 as my group expression name, which I named over here. You can name it whatever you want. It's always good to name it, but in this case I didn't, so apologies for that. But let's just say it's group 1. So in group promote, I use group name and click over here, go to group 1. And by default, you can change the convert from. So by auto, I think it's always going to be on points, but just to make sure, I want to go from points to primitives. And now it's going to select all the geometry which I actually want and not just points. So it's basically going to select all the polygons associated with the points which I had in the first group. And I'm sorry if it's a bit too fast, but yeah, we need to just do a lot of stuff. Okay, so from this, I took the curves out of all these groups that I had. So I used a group from attribute boundary. So group from attribute boundary over here. And I insert this over here. And if I go to this, it's going to ask me for a base group. And basically these are some default stuff. So what I want to do is go to base group and type group 1 again and blue flag it. And it's going to give me all the curves that are associated with that group of polygons, which I had. So that's what I did over here, just to extract the boundary edges of the curves. So I grouped that itself. So that itself, I created a group called F. I don't know why I created F. It was something I did late night, so I didn't want to think a lot. So I created a group out of it, but in this case, I use edges so that only the edges are selected as a group. then what I did is I created a blast. So what a blast does is it's if, for example, in Grasshopper, like how we have the list item, and we can select from value 1 to value how much ever is there in the list. It's something very similar, but in this case, I have a blast. And if I connect it to this, I can select the group. Say I've selected group 1. So group 1 was this whole thing. So over here, what it does is it's basically selected the inverse. So if I want the other one, I basically say delete non-selected. And I get only these stuff extracted out from the entire model. And I deleted all the stuff which was inside. So that's how we extract geometries properly from analysis. So that's what I did over here. And I basically, I didn't need the analysis after that. So I just colored the entire thing using a very default color, the white. So everything changes white, and it's good to see. The next node I used was the edge smooth. I hope it works. Right, it works. Good. So as you can see, if you see this properly, now geometry 1 is this entire thing, and geometry 2 is this, and these are the boundary edges. Now all these are very jagged, and I didn't want them to be very jagged. I wanted to be a very smooth, outline. So after extracting this curve, I wanted to make these boundary edges very, very smooth. So here we use the edge smooth command to make it very smooth. So it basically by default makes it very smooth, and you can up the strength by how much that you want. But I think in my case, 500 was looking decent. So I stuck with 500. And I think it won't work for you by default. I think you'll have to select this include unshared edges. Affect this. Does it? Yeah, so I think you'll have to choose include unshared edges. It's a lab. Okay, it's a labs component. So I think you'll have to download labs for this. Pedro, I'm not sure, but can we do this without labs? Is there any other method which you can use?
I'm not sure about it, but I think for those who have the 19 version of Houdini, you should have all labs command installed by default.
Yeah, you should. Okay. Okay, so just keep that in mind that you need labs installed, because it's a very, very handy plugin, and it's free, and it comes with the installation of Houdini. So please have it. So, okay, so after this point, after I made everything smooth, what I did is just to be sure that everything is symmetrized, I just clipped it. I clipped the first half of it, and I symmetrized it with the other just to make sure that everything is symmetrical. And then I fused it, meaning it fuses the edges over here. So all is one geometry now. And basically then I just poly extruded them out. So you can see over here, this is just like a single plane. I used poly extrude. I think one thing which you need to keep in mind when you're poly extruding is when I use poly extrude, say the distance is 0.005, I think, right. Now you see inside, so your back face is not going to come by default. It's just going to extrude the side groups and the face which you have extruded out. So in order to make it closed, you need to go here in the extrusion tab and check on output back. So it's going to close and maintain the original face that we had. So now it's all closed up and good to go. And that's that's something that you need to keep in mind always. Next, I just went on to normals to fix all the geometry, the polygonal mesh normal, so that it looks good. And just in case I added some color before, finishing up the model. And the same thing I did with this thing. So the first geometry which I selected was the one on the top. Now in this second node, I worked on the interior geometry, and I pretty much, I think, did the same thing, if I'm not mistaken. Right, I think, yeah. So in this case, I didn't use the poly extrude because I wanted both to, have some differentiation or a depth in the model. But yeah, so you can see over here, it's something that's very different. And all this we have done from the base model, which we have created from in Maya. So that's one good way of, working in both the softwares, is to create a base model in Maya and then coming to Houdini and doing the curvature analysis to extract different geometries from. Yeah, I think I'm done. Yeah, sure.
I've always been wondering, how do you bake the point texture to a map? I have followed a tutorial previously, but I think that's on my part, I haven't been successful. Whenever I exported anything like FBX or OBJ, I wasn't able to also output a texture map, especially when my texture is done by the attribute nodes. So could you go over that?
Yeah, I think, Pedro,
There are two nodes, I think.
Yeah.
Let me remember, because there is one node from Labs, but I'm not sure if it's working well.
Want to share screen?
Let me share my screen. Yeah, let me try, because
Sure.
I did that once, even though it was not successful for me. But anyway, let me show you. Okay, let's imagine. Okay, I will have this one. By the way, I will show you today this workflow. It's more or less the same as Aman showed previously. But I remember that there are two nodes. One is called Labs Maps Baker, and the second one is called Simple Baker, right? Yeah, the Simple Baker.
Yeah.
I remember this first one used to give you the possibility to export different maps. So for example, if I grab this node and plug it into here, hopefully this will work, not sure. But down here, first of all, you need to choose the resolution. I remember once I tried to use that, I tried to go like 1024, but I don't remember that this worked. Here you need to choose what kind of map you wanna export. For now, I just want to export the color, the base color as it is. So here, I think it's everything ready. I mean, it's ready to go. You should be able to select this particular output. Let's go like, I will create my folder here, accept it, and I remember, I think everything is okay, right? Transfer diffuse normal map. Let's put a name, by the way. Maps.
Excuse me. I was wondering, before you connect the Labs Maps Maker node, did your geometry already have a UV, or is it, or do you already have a UV attribute? Or no, you don't.
I don't have it, but we can add it if we may. That's a pretty good question. But in any case, here, what I will do is I will export this one as a plain texture. If you export then later this as an OBJ, you shouldn't have any problem to apply the texture into this particular one. But yeah, what we can do here is when we can create a UV texture. We can use UV texture if you may. we can do that.
So that UV texture is not necessary, right?
That's a pretty good question. Not sure. I did this a really long time ago. But let's try to do it without it, just to see. I'm not sure, to be honest. But here you should be able to export by pressing render. But I remember I tried to do this one once a really long time ago. I'm not sure if that worked. I don't think so. Let me see. Probably we need the UV text too. No, where is the texture? Yeah, it's not here. Let's try the other one. This one is, by the way, this one comes by default here in Houdini. Let's try to use this one. I will erase, by the way. Lab Simple Baker.
UV texturing is a very scary thing.
Yeah, let's try to go here into maps. Let's see if by placing JPEG or PNG this will work. Texture, accept, and let's try to maintain this low resolution. Rendered, and I think it's working. But I think this should be done faster. Let's see. It seems like it will work. I don't know exactly why the component of labs doesn't work well, to be honest. But in any case, you can choose the simple baker. I think it worked. Let me check. It's in the desktop. I think it's here, but without any color. I don't know why, to be honest.
Yeah, I got the exact same result, although I used a different method. I previously used I went to the output how to call it, panel, and added a big texture output. But I got the same thing as you got. I got a black and white map.
That's pretty weird. That's very true. Base color should be, why is black? Let me see if we can turn on anything.
Is it because the color we should promote the attribute from point to vertex color? Because I see that it is rendering vertex color, but I think our previous color is a point attribute.
That's a pretty good question. Well, if so, what we can do is we can promote attributes.
Yeah.
So let's try by promoting the attribute from point to vertex. And what we are going to transfer is the color. Let's see if this worked. Point to a vertex. I think it's here. Yeah, now the color is in the vertex, as you may see here. Previously, we used to have the city attribute in the point as an attribute for points. Now we have it in the vertex. Let's try to do it again. Let's erase this one. Hopefully this will work. But that's a pretty good question. I just remember I did this once a pretty long time ago. But in any case, there is also a way to do it in Maya, to export textures in Maya. You can also bake them. But yeah, if you want to export an attribute, this is the only way I know how I know that works. Let's see if this worked. No, I think that's pretty weird. Let me see how to solve that. That's a pretty good question. Let me see how to solve that. In any case, let me do my own research today and see if I can find a solution for tomorrow for this particular thing.
Okay, thank you so much. I have been struggling with this for a long time because I try to make 3D assets and use them in Unreal and Unity. So I have to get the texture out.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But no, thank you. I remember I did it once and it worked for me using this node. But let me see why it's not working right now. But anyway, but thanks for the question. I have something to research now. Cool. Cool. Unless someone here in the group has the solution, that would be nice also. Please feel free to interrupt us if you want. But now that I have the folder, I just want to show you very quickly the same procedure that Aman showed to you, but using our model, the model that we had yesterday. This particular model, I rendered it in Arnold, in Maya, by the way. So to get something like that. Okay, so the difference between what Aman showed to you and this particular procedure, which is more or less the same, is that at the end, what I want to show you is how to get more than 2 pieces. Here in this particular output, you have 4 different pieces. Okay. The procedure is more or less the same, but let's continue with our model that we had yesterday. So what I did basically here, by the way, I used this node, which is called switch. Okay, if you you can use the switch node almost like a merge node in where you can join different nodes. And from this is more like a controller. So if you, for example, join 3 nodes and merge them together with a switch node, you will have the possibility to choose between different outputs. In this particular case, this output is number 0. If I go to 1, obviously it disappeared because all this procedure is off. But in any case, if this particular procedure was on, here we will see the output 1 and output 2 and so on. This is just for organization. So what I did here is I use first of all, I use the match size to go to the origin. That's just to maintain clean my model. Let's select these to see the topology, and I add subdivision. Why? Because what I want to do is to get more detail on the mesh, to have to get or to obtain more detail at the end when extracting data from here. So I use this same node, the measure curvature this is from Labs, by the way. By default, you have another node which is called measure, but this is the particular node from Houdini. However, you also have this other option, which is called the measure curvature from Labs. I will be using this one just to select to work with the concavity. The idea behind this particular attribute is that when you start playing with the ramp, what I did here is if you maybe it's not really visible, but I have here 2 points, point 1 and 2, and the distance between them is really close. The reason why I did that is, let me close this. For example, here in point 1, the first point on this particular graph is in 0, but number 2, it's almost 0. The reason why I did that is just to have more contrast in the analysis. Just that. The more contrast you have, the better control you will get at the end to extract data. Okay. So from this point onwards, what I'm creating are 2 attributes: attribute convexity and concavity. Even though I won't be using convexity, I will be using concavity. Here in the information, you will see that now we have 2 new point attributes, concavity and convexity. I will be working with concavity. So that means, knowing that, I just added this node, this color nodes, and said, okay, by default, the color attribute comes like this. You have if I connected this and I add this, I have by default the possibility to change the color of the mesh. However, I don't want to change the color just randomly. What I want to do is I want to grab the concavity attribute and change color depending on that attribute. So what I did here is I just chose this option, which is called ramp from attribute. From here, I need to choose what kind of attribute I want to include in this particular process. Of course, we have several attributes based on what we have. Of course, we have here 4 attributes. We have color, concavity, convexity, and position. In my particular case, what I did is I selected the concavity option. Why? Because with this second graph, I can control even more the contrast. By controlling the contrast in this way, again, you have more options to get more pieces, less pieces, however you want. So that's what I did with this particular node. using black and white just because for me it's easier, okay, to look at the model like that. And then I add this particular node, which is called attribute blur, just to increase a little bit the extension of the white and black color, okay, just to increase. At the end, we will see what's the difference between them. But what I did is I just said, let's blur a little bit the concavity attribute. So in any case, if this particular line is shorter, you can increase the width of this particular color. Then this is the fun part, the cluster point part. What I did with this particular node, let me move this to here. Okay. What I did with this particular node is I selected, I start creating group clusters based on point colors, based on points. Okay. So what you can do with this is you need to tell this particular node, you need to tell that you want to group colors based on this particular attribute, concavity, because we are working with concavity. So by default, you can go from 2 clusters to how many you want. This is more or less what you can get with the Aman's procedure. But from this point, you can select even more. You can go like 5, you know. And the funny part about that is that we can extract those data. We can extract those polygons based on those new colors. Let's go to 4. That's the number I use. Okay. You can change the seed if you want. Probably here I won't see too much difference, but they will look almost the same. However, what I have here is a new attribute called cluster points that are on points. If I want to extract polygons, I need to transfer that attribute and tell Houdini what I want now is to transfer that particular attribute onto the polygons. So for me, it will be easier to extract those polygons later to export it into another software. That's why I use this particular node, attribute promote, because what I'm telling here is whatever attribute I have on points, please move it into the primitives, because then I will have the possibility to extract primitives and export the primitives into another software. That's what I did here. Okay. Now, when you click on it, you will see that now, where is my cluster? My cluster attribute are on the primitives. That's nice because from now I can group them and extract them. So this particular procedure is the same as Aman showed you just a couple of minutes ago. Why here I am using the cluster attribute and not the concavity attribute? Because here, up here, what I'm creating up here from the cluster node, we are creating a new attribute, which is called cluster. Here it says, from this point onwards, you will be creating a new attribute that will be called cluster. So that means in the next process, I am doing something. I am promoted something from the cluster. Then I'm working again with the cluster attribute. From this point onwards, we are creating a new attribute, which is called like that. And we are smoothing whatever is happening on that particular attribute, the attribute group from. You just need to copy paste it. This is the same procedure as Aman showed you. So from this point onwards, the procedure is quite a bit different. We will be using blast node to extract those data, but as we have more than 2 groups, the way to call them is by using this particular code. By saying this, by using this particular symbol, add cluster, what we are saying is we are calling the attribute cluster. We use the equal and we select the number of the particular group. As we know that we have 4 groups, here I will be selecting the first one. That's why it's cluster 0. The next one will be 1, 2, and so on until 3. Until 3. 3, 2, 1. How I know that is because we use here in the cluster points, we create 4 clusters. That's why down here, by using the node blast, I use this particular code. We are calling the cluster, and we are asking this node to select group 1. In this particular group 2, of course, we need to start from 0 as Grasshopper, right? That's why we have here until number 3. Then just to keep the order, as from this part, we created, to this point, we have created tons of attributes. I'm not sure if I will be using them later, but in any case, there is one way to clean all this information by using a node called attribute delete. This particular node, attribute delete, will help you to deal with all unnecessary attributes. Okay, from here you can, if I connect this one here, by default on this particular arrow, I will be able to see all the attributes that I created and the rest, and the same for the rest. Probably in Vertex I don't have nothing, but I have something on the primitive attributes and so on. Here you can select by selecting one of those, for example, if you click color here, what you're saying to Houdini is please get rid of that particular attribute. So from this particular point, we won't be able to see the color attribute. If I want to deal with everything, I just press the star symbol. And from what I'm saying with this is that get rid of everything that is unnecessary. So I will keep just the basic attribute, which is position. That's what I did just to clean my geometry. And instead, in my case, instead of using poly extrude to extrude this particular mesh, I use another one, which is called thicken. For me, particularly, I like this particular node most. This is also from Labs. What I like about this particular node is that the extrusion will be smoother, I think. Okay, I use this particular node with a very low depth. I subdivide it again. You can do it. You can repeat that process for every piece. That's what I did. I joined them together. This is very simple to do. I just use a switch to maintain my own, just for a personal organization. And from this point, you can export every part to whatever software you want. In my case, I export every piece into Maya to start texturing there. I prefer to start materials from scratch there to get something like that. Good thing to have this kind of model in Houdini is that if you, for example, let's see, I don't like this particular iteration. Okay, just because I know that remember that we used to have our offset parameter linked to the timeline. That means that if I, for example, right now my timeline is on 312 frames, I can change it into 97, for example, and I will get a whole completely iteration. I just go back here. So my script will run again all this procedure, and I will get more or less the same result, but with another with a whole different iteration. We just need to wait. So this is the same thing, but with another different iteration. I don't like it. I just click on another part of the timeline, and the process will repeat. That's the good thing to have this particular model on Houdini from the beginning. So you can export different iterations like this one, for example. You know, in my particular case, I did just once with this particular model, and that's fine. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you guys related to Houdini. Maybe tomorrow I will be explaining a little bit more about the spaces. I wanted to do it today, but I don't want you to get too much information today. Tomorrow I will be explaining you this process, how to get more complex spaces, but with the same procedure. This particular script is quite a bit longer, but maybe tomorrow is the best day to explain this one. Okay, not sure if you have questions. By the way, I will upload the other file. I will upload this file into the drive folder. If you don't have access there, please let us know. Okay, to reshare again the link, even though it's on the Discord channel. Cool. I don't know if you have questions, guys. If not,
I have a small question about the cluster.
Yeah.
So in my geometry, and I would like to share my screen, but my Houdini kind of froze in the middle of it.
Oh, never mind. Never mind. Try by explaining.
I mean, so it's frozen, but I think you can see it somehow. because I tried to add tick into it, and yeah, that thing kind of killed it. But anyway, what I'm trying to do in here is actually divide it into 3 groups. And as you see here, there's like a mix between green and blue, and I think they're from different clusters, even though I mentioned it's cluster 0. Is my Houdini back? No, it's not. So I was wondering if there's I don't know, is it because I'm not using attribute blur or anything like that, or why is this?
No, you don't need to use attribute blur in any case.
Or is it because I'm using it? Like, it's kind of funny that there's 2 colors in here instead of 1. You got me, right?
Yes, but by default, when you try to cluster groups, the minimum amount is 1. So that means it will appear 2. As a consequence, you will have 2 colors.
Yeah, I have 3. So I put in the attribute 3. So are you saying like if you put 3, you will have 2 instead? Okay, so the minimum clusters is 2, right? Yes. And if you put 3, does it mean you still have 3 clusters, or do you have 2 clusters with just different and 1 in between them?
You should have 1 more, but that's weird. Probably it's there. Yeah. Probably it's there, but maybe are just less polygons that we are not even capable to see, but probably they are there.
Okay.
For example, let's try to go back to cluster points. Yeah, I can see 3 now.
There's 3. So now there is a 3. There's the light blue, dark blue, and the green. Yeah. And if we skip to blast, and so in blast I have,
Okay, I see that you have. Let's go back a little bit to the cluster point again. Cluster points node. Yeah. What you have there, you have the refinement iterations into 100. Maybe you can reduce it.
So like
let's put it in 0. Let's put it in 0 to see what happened, because you don't need too much. Okay. You don't need to refine now.
Okay.
Yeah. Now you have more. 0. Now you have more of that 3rd color. Yeah. So let's see what happens when you go to edge smooth before the blast part.
Okay.
Let's see how Houdini is organizing all the. Okay, but
sure, it will take like a minute. Yeah, it will like.
Yeah.
Also probably I have too much subdivided geometry or something.
Yeah, try by reducing first the subdivision before being sure that's the particular grouping that you want. Yeah, if not.
Also, was there like a way actually, so to make this whole thing like quicker, is there a way maybe like, you know, in Grasshopper you can bake a certain step and then you can reference that step as a BRAP or whatever it is, and then you can manipulate it?
You can bake a particular geometry here. The node is it's called Stash, I think. Let me put it into this chat. There is one called Stash. Yeah. What the Stash node is it's a kind of baking node. So if you connect your for example, let's connect the delta mush onto the Stash node, for example. So if you stash the input, you will like get a particular geometry frozen. So from that particular from that node, it doesn't matter if you reset your timeline or not. You will have a kind of baked geometry on there. From the
so it's like data dam. It's like data dam in Grasshopper, where you can store data and data until you press the
more or less. But data dam, it's like it's more or less like a bypass. From data dam, what you say is, if something happens before, just don't do after. Don't do nothing after. But in this particular case, this node contains data. That means that in consequence, your file will increase its size, the size of the file.
Yeah. Storing that step in there.
Be mindful about it.
Okay.
But that's the way you make geometries. I can see 3 colors there, so you shouldn't have any problem to extracting them. So let's go to the blast node.
Okay.
Let's go to the blasting node.
Yeah. So now again 2 colors somehow.
I know why. Please select the blast.
Is there like an overlap is
No,
there like an overlap
no,
or
it's
yeah?
it's because what we are doing with Blast is we are deleting what we want to see. So there is one attribute that is called delete non-selected on the parameters. Yeah,
Okay, now that makes sense.
that will invert the selection. So repeat that process with your cluster 1 and 2. Yeah, because by default Blast deletes what you are selecting. So in our case, we want to work with the opposite logic.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
That should
Thank
work.
you so much.
Yeah, no worries. That's looking really cool.
I think I'm not sure. Maybe you can give me your comment on this, but I think I either overdid the subdivision or like, let's go back to Delta Mesh. What I'm trying to like achieve as a geometry overall is something like more organic but still has this. So think about a geometry that has like an alien skin on top of it. So a hard surface modeling, like a hexagon with a DNA loop around it. Yep. And then what I'm trying to do with your mountain is just the mountain component is to give it more this like skin, like all skin kind of texture, so to speak. But I'm not sure if I over subdivided the geometry, so I have too many faces, and then the clusters doesn't really figure out what to do with it anymore. So if I go to, for example, the measure curvature, you can see there is a lot of these ripples. Yeah. So yeah. It's I'm not sure if that's a good practice. I mean, from what I come from as texturing, this is a little bit bad practice to have like these kind of ripple effect, so to speak. And I'm not sure if it's because the ramp or anything to do with the curvature component.
It may be. Try to move the number in your ramp. Let me annotate something. Where is are you using convexity or concavity? I think is
convexity.
Okay, so try by playing with this second number, moving it to the right to see how much your particular texture change, because when you put them together, what you will get at the end is a very high contrast texture. So maybe by reducing it will help you. Not sure if you should move the number 1.
I'm just playing around with it.
Oh, okay, go with it. And in any case, then what you can do is with the second color node, you can again play with the contrast as well.
Is it about the intensity by any chance? Like and here, so because when the intensity was back to 1, I was not getting a lot of color actually. Hence the reason I tried to.
You can do it there as well. You can do it there as well, or you can do it by going to the color node, because there you have an option to increase the range.
Okay.
So for example, let's imagine that you like that, and on the color node, you can still be playing with it, because there you have this particular parameter. Range. If you increase that amount, you should be able to control the range as well. But I think you need to reduce it instead of increasing the number. Instead of using 3, put like 0.5, for example. Yeah, something like that. And if you are not convinced yet with this kind of ripples you have here, then that's where attribute blur can help you to increase or to smooth that particular shape. But you need to connect.
And here I didn't get this part. Like it was quite quick, so this is why I have it on the side right now, because I couldn't see the result change too much, and I'm not sure what am I missing exactly in here. The attribute blur.
No, that should be work. Try to increase the step size. By the way, put like 3, 4, 5. That should work. Unless you're working with concavity instead of convexity.
No, I'm working with convexity.
Weird.
So I have the attribute mentioned in here as well. Yeah.
Weird. Try by placing another color node here, and there try to call back the convexity attribute. Yeah, here in the color type, what you can do is select the option that is called ramp from attributes.
Yeah. Convexity. Right now, it doesn't see anything. So for some reason, it's like it doesn't read the, and I'm not sure. Like, did I miss up this somewhere? So
let me see. Let me see. Let me see. You have your convexity. It's working fine. That's weird. That's
the attribute comes.
increase the blurry iteration, but like a lot, like 1,000, for example.
Okay.
More. Did it work?
That kind of froze.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no, it's slowly dying.
Let me see why it's not working.
Okay. So
let me see my file.
It's 1,000 still the same. Yeah.
Let me see why it's not working. That should work. In my particular case, just give me 1 second.
Yeah, take your time. I'm playing here around with mine as well.
Why is it not working here? Let me see. I may see. Yeah, I think what's the problem here? Maybe because.
Is it the influence type? Maybe.
Yes, I know what was the problem. We need to change the attribute. Let me see. Yeah, okay, I found the problem. Instead of working with the convexity, we need to work with color, because now we are creating here a color. City.
Okay, do I need to write the name of the color component itself?
Remember that the attribute name of color is called CD. C with capital letter and D with not capital letter. Yes, exactly. That's the name we use for color attributes. That should work in any case.
Yeah, I can feel it's working because it literally,
maybe 500 is too much. So that means if you want to use whatever is happening here as a new input for the next node in the cluster point node, you need to change the attribute convexity to CD, because now not there but here in the convexity attribute here. Because now we are not dealing with convexity attribute anymore, but the CD.
Okay.
Exactly, and you need to follow that logic for the next.
Exactly, and then I believe for the
the
group formatting.
Yeah, because from the measure node to the next one, what was the color? We create a new attribute based on color. So what we did is we grab the attributes from the convexity and turn it into color, into new attribute with that was city. That's why you need to change it later on all the attributes. Yeah,
so
that's
right now
after the cluster.
Yeah, after the cluster, now the data should be called from cluster, right? So in here, like in any other, for example, in here, I should just call the cluster, right?
Yeah, from this particular, from the cluster point, what we are doing is we're creating a new attribute which is called cluster, right? Can you click on the cluster point, please?
Yeah.
For all to see. Yeah, we are creating this new output. Yeah, as we are creating this new output, we have new attributes. What we are going to work with from this point onward are not CD anymore, but cluster. You can recall the CD if you want, but for this particular procedure, we are working with the clusters.
Okay. And so from now on, it should call the others. Like if I go to the blast, it should understand automatically that this is the itself, etc.
On this particular procedure, you shouldn't change the add cluster equals 0, because from the cluster point we are start working with cluster attribute rather than CD attribute.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
So that means that you need to play with the attribute blur right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to actually get more of these surfaces divided into like somehow understandable groups, more or less.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
Nice.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Okay, guys. Now I will stop live streaming, because we are going to work with students on the board. So for those who are watching the YouTube live streaming, thank you so much, and well, see you on the next video. Okay, I will be here with my students. So bye bye to the YouTube guys.